What if the person you trusted most in this world was secretly plotting your death? February 24, 2005. A seemingly ordinary winter day in Cleveland, Ohio. A woman crashes her SUV on a suburban road. First responders rush to the scene, expecting to find injuries from the collision, but what they discover is far more disturbing. This is the story of Rosemarie Essa, a loving mother, dedicated nurse, and loyal wife whose life ended not by chance, but by calculation. Her death appeared to be a tragic accident, until someone asked the right questions and uncovered the chilling truth. The person who vowed to love her until death did them part had other plans. A respected doctor with a dark secret. A marriage that looked perfect from the outside. A poison that's almost impossible to trace. Welcome to True Crime Vault. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a case that shows how the line between medicine and murder can blur. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now. Born in 1966 in Cleveland, Ohio, Rosemarie Essa entered the world as part of a tight-knit Italian-American family. From her earliest days, those who knew her describe a girl with an infectious smile and a natural gift for connecting with others. Her childhood home buzzed with the sounds of family gatherings, laughter, and the warm aromas of her mother's cooking. She was the kind of person who lit up a room, recalled her childhood friend, Maria. Even as a teenager, she knew exactly who she was and what she wanted from life. Rosemarie's high school yearbooks paint the picture of a young woman actively involved in her community, a member of the student council, volunteer at the local hospital, and known for her academic dedication. After graduation, Rosemarie followed her compassionate nature straight into nursing school. Her gentle touch and genuine care made patients feel at ease during their most vulnerable moments. Fellow nurses often noted how Rosemarie would stay after her shifts to comfort patients who had no visitors. Nursing wasn't just a job for Rose, explained her former supervisor. It was her calling. She had this ability to know exactly what her patients needed. By her late 20s, Rosemarie had established herself as a respected nurse with a promising career ahead. She maintained close ties with her family, joining them for Sunday dinners and celebrations, traditions she hoped to pass on to her own children someday. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they weren't who they claimed to be? It was during a hectic emergency room shift in 1993 when Rosemarie Essa first crossed paths with Dr. Essa. Their meeting reads like the opening scene of a romance movie, a dedicated nurse and a charismatic doctor locking eyes across a busy hospital floor. There was something about him, she told her sister. He has these intense eyes that make you feel like you're the only person in the room. Essa, a Lebanese-American doctor with impressive credentials, quickly earned a reputation at Cleveland General as both brilliant and charming. Colleagues described him as confident, sometimes bordering on cocky, but his skills as an emergency physician were undeniable. Their courtship moved swiftly. Within months, they became one of the hospital's power couples, with their different backgrounds, her Italian-American heritage and his Lebanese roots, creating a relationship that friends described as dynamic. In 1999, surrounded by 200 guests at St. Anthony's Church, Rosemarie and Essa exchanged vows. Photos from that day show a beaming bride in white lace and a proud groom who couldn't take his eyes off her. Their reception lasted late into the night, with dancing that blended traditional Lebanese and Italian music. The newlyweds settled in Gates Mills, an affluent Cleveland suburb. The Essa's 5-bedroom colonial, with its manicured lawn and brick facade, fit perfectly among the neighborhood's showcase properties. Soon, their home welcomed 2 children, a son and a daughter who became the center of Rosemarie's world. By all appearances, the Essas had achieved the American dream. Essa's medical practice thrived, and Rosemarie balanced part-time nursing with motherhood. Their holiday cards showed a beautiful family of 4, always smiling, always perfect. They seemed to have everything, remembered their neighbor, Ellen. The gorgeous house, beautiful kids, successful careers. We all envied them a little. But as with many picture-perfect exteriors, what lurked behind the Essa's front door told a different story entirely. By 2003, whispers about Yazid Essa's extracurricular activities had begun circulating through Cleveland's medical community. Nurses reported seeing him leaving the hospital with different women. Though these rumors never reached Rosemarie directly, she began noticing subtle changes in her husband's behavior. "He's working late more often," she told her brother Dominic during a family gathering. "And when he comes home, he's distant. Sometimes I wonder if there's someone else." Yazid's unexplained absences multiplied. Business trips extended without notice. His cell phone remained perpetually locked, and he stepped outside to take calls. When Rosemarie questioned these patterns, Yazid dismissed her concerns as paranoia, often turning the conversation back on her. But Yazid's secret life extended beyond affairs. Financial records would later reveal mounting debts, expensive gifts for girlfriends, gambling losses, and risky investments gone wrong. Despite his six-figure income, Yazid found himself in a financial squeeze. Meanwhile, Rosemarie maintained their joint accounts with careful precision, unaware of the separate credit cards and loans her husband had acquired. What no one realized was that Yazid had begun a serious relationship with a woman named Amira, whom he'd met at a medical conference. Phone records would later show hundreds of texts between them, with Yazid promising a future together. In one message, he wrote, "Soon we won't have to hide anymore." If you're watching this video right now and finding Rosemarie's story compelling, hit that like button and share it with someone who appreciates true crime stories that go beyond the headlines. As January 2005 arrived, Yazid's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He researched real estate in other states, updated his will, and inquired about increasing Rosemarie's life insurance policy. The stage was being set for what would become a calculated act that shocked the entire Cleveland community. February 24, 2005 began like countless other winter mornings in the Essa household. The temperature hovered just below freezing, with a light dusting of snow covering the ground. Rosemarie woke early, as she always did, to prepare breakfast for the children before school. According to the family's nanny, who arrived at 7:30 a.m., Rosemarie mentioned feeling slightly under the weather, nothing serious, just tired with a mild headache. Yazid, who had been on call the previous night, returned home around 8:15 a.m. The nanny overheard a brief conversation between the couple in the kitchen. Rosemarie mentioned her plans for the day, dropping off dry cleaning, meeting a friend for lunch, and picking up groceries for dinner. At approximately 9:20 a.m., Rosemarie prepared to leave the house. It was then that Yazid suggested she take a calcium supplement for her headache, retrieving a pill from a bottle in their bathroom cabinet. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's security system captured Rosemarie backing her Toyota SUV out of the driveway at 9:27 a.m., unaware that she had just consumed a lethal dose of cyanide disguised as a health supplement. Cell phone records show that Rosemarie called her brother Dominic at 9:41 a.m., 14 minutes into her drive. The call connected for 97 seconds. "She sounded strange," Dominic would later testify. "Her words were slurred, and she told me she felt really dizzy all of a sudden. She said, 'Something's not right, Dom. I can't focus.' Then I heard a noise, and the call ended." That noise was the sound of Rosemarie's SUV veering across the center line of Richmond Road, sideswiping an oncoming vehicle before crashing into a telephone pole. Witnesses described seeing her slumped over the steering wheel moments before impact, suggesting she had lost consciousness while driving. Emergency services arrived within minutes. Despite their immediate resuscitation efforts, she was pronounced dead upon arrival at Hillcrest Hospital at 10:23 a.m. She was 38 years old. Initial medical reports attributed her death to a sudden cardiac event. When Dominic arrived at the hospital, he found Yazid already there. Witnesses would later describe Yazid's demeanor as oddly composed and mechanically going through the motions of a grieving husband. "He didn't cry," recalled the hospital chaplain who sat with the family. "He kept checking his phone and asking about procedural things, death certificates, funeral arrangements, insurance notifications, within an hour of her being pronounced dead." As the initial shock of Rosemarie's death began to settle, subtle inconsistencies in Yazid's behavior raised questions among the DiPuccio family. Dominic, who had served as a police officer before moving into private security, felt particularly uneasy. At the funeral home, while making arrangements for Rosemarie's service, Yazid pushed for immediate cremation, an unusual request that conflicted with the family's Catholic traditions. When the DiPuccios objected, suggesting instead that they follow traditional burial customs, Yazid became agitated. This disagreement escalated until Dominic privately contacted the county medical examiner's office, requesting they conduct a comprehensive autopsy before releasing Rosemarie's body. His request, backed by his credentials as a former law enforcement officer, prompted the medical examiner to agree to additional toxicology screening beyond the standard panel. When Yazid learned of this development, witnesses described his face as draining of color. He immediately contacted his attorney and began questioning whether the family had legal standing to request such tests without his consent as Rosemarie's husband. 3 days after the funeral, with Rosemarie's family still deep in mourning, the medical examiner's office made a phone call that transformed their grief into horror. Preliminary toxicology results had detected abnormal levels of cyanide in Rosemarie's blood, a substance that has no place in the human body and is almost never found accidentally. Cyanide poisoning is extremely rare, explained Dr. Robert Challoner, the toxicologist who confirmed the findings. In my 30 years of practice, I've seen maybe 3 cases. It's not something that happens by accident. Cyanide poisoning perfectly explained Rosemarie's symptoms: the sudden dizziness, slurred speech, rapid loss of consciousness, and cardiac arrest. Death typically occurs within minutes of ingestion, exactly the timeline observed in Rosemarie's case. With this revelation, what had been treated as a tragic natural death officially became a homicide investigation. Investigators executed a search warrant at the Essa home, focusing on the master bathroom where, according to the nanny's statement, Yazid had retrieved the calcium pill for Rosemarie. They collected multiple prescription and supplement bottles, but laboratory analysis found no traces of cyanide in any of them. This absence was telling, suggesting the poison pill had been given individually rather than coming from a contaminated bottle. Digital forensics specialists examined Yazid's computer and discovered searches for untraceable poisons, cyanide detection after death, and symptoms of poisoning dating back several months. His browser history also showed research on countries without extradition treaties with the United States. Financial investigators uncovered a complex web of transactions. Yazid had recently taken out an additional life insurance policy on Rosemarie valued at $1 million, with himself as the sole beneficiary. Bank records revealed large cash withdrawals totaling nearly $75,000 in the month before Rosemarie's death. Perhaps the most damning evidence came from Amira, Yazid's girlfriend, who initially maintained they were just friends, but eventually revealed their extensive relationship after being confronted with hundreds of text messages and hotel receipts. In a tearful interview, she admitted Yazid had discussed leaving his wife and starting a new life together, mentioning that a solution was coming soon. "He told me we'd be together by spring," she stated in her recorded testimony. When I asked how he planned to leave his marriage, he just said, "Don't worry about the details. Some problems solve themselves." If you're following this case closely, drop a comment below with your thoughts. What signs do you think friends and family missed? As evidence mounted, prosecutors prepared to present their case to a grand jury. But on March 8, 2005, just as investigators were finalizing the arrest warrant, Yazid Essa disappeared. Security footage from Cleveland Hopkins International Airport showed him boarding a flight to Cyprus, the first leg of what would become an international escape attempt. As law enforcement prepared to make an arrest, Yazid Essa was already implementing his escape plan. He drove to Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and boarded a flight to Cyprus, a strategic choice as his first destination. Cyprus, with its banking secrecy and large Middle Eastern expatriate community, provided Yazid temporary shelter while he arranged the next phase of his escape. From there, he traveled to Lebanon, his ancestral homeland, where he had extended family connections. Lebanon lacks an extradition treaty with the United States, making it a common destination for fugitives. Yazid apparently believed he could disappear into Beirut's bustling neighborhoods, perhaps establishing a new identity using the cash he had systematically withdrawn over previous months. For nearly 2 years, Yazid remained at large, moving between Lebanon, Syria, and other Middle Eastern countries. According to later intelligence reports, he adopted various aliases and worked occasionally as an off-the-books medical consultant in private clinics that didn't scrutinize credentials too closely. During this time, Rosemarie's family maintained constant pressure on federal authorities, refusing to let the case grow cold. Dominic DiPuccio established a website tracking the search for Yazid and offering a reward for information leading to his capture. On October 7, 2006, 19 months after Rosemarie's murder, Yazid Essa's freedom came to an abrupt end at Frankfurt International Airport in Germany. While attempting to board a flight to Cyprus using his fake passport, he was detained by German border police who had been alerted to watch for travelers matching his description. Initial fingerprint analysis confirmed his identity, triggering immediate notification to American authorities. FBI Special Agent Phil Torsney, who had led the international manhunt, received the call he had been waiting for. "We got him," Torsney announced to the DiPuccio family. "He's in custody in Germany." The capture marked the beginning of a complex legal process. Germany, unlike Lebanon, does have an extradition treaty with the United States, but the agreement includes provisions that required thorough review of the evidence before transferring custody. For 13 months, Yazid remained in a Frankfurt detention center while diplomatic and legal negotiations continued. The U.S. Department of Justice submitted comprehensive documentation of the case, including the toxicology reports, financial records, and witness statements. On January 29, 2008, nearly 3 years after Rosemarie's death, Yazid Essa was escorted by U.S. Marshals onto a Justice Department aircraft and flown back to Cleveland. News cameras captured his arrival, the once prominent doctor now handcuffed and wearing a prisoner jumpsuit, his eyes downcast as officers led him into the Cuyahoga County Justice Center. For Rosemarie's family, the moment brought conflicting emotions. Seeing him in handcuffs didn't bring Rose back, her sister explained. But it meant he couldn't hurt anyone else, and couldn't keep running from what he'd done. Have you ever wondered what it takes to bring international fugitives to justice? How do families maintain hope during years of waiting for closure? On January 11, 2010, nearly 5 years after Rosemarie's death, the trial of Yazid Essa began in the Cuyahoga County Courthouse. The proceedings attracted national media attention, with Court TV broadcasting live and major networks sending correspondents to cover what had become known as the Calcium Killer case. Prosecutor Stephen Dever opened with a powerful statement that laid out the state's theory: this case is about betrayal in its most extreme form. Dr. Yazid Essa, a man who took an oath to do no harm, poisoned his wife, the mother of his children, with cyanide disguised as medicine. He did this for money, for freedom, and to be with another woman. Over 4 weeks, jurors heard testimony from 67 witnesses and reviewed more than 280 pieces of evidence. The prosecution methodically constructed their timeline, showing how Yazid had access to cyanide through his hospital connections, had researched poison methods, and had clear financial and personal motives. After 7 days of deliberation, on March 5, 2010, the jury reached their verdict. As the courtroom fell silent, the foreman rose to announce their decision. On the charge of aggravated murder, we the jury find the defendant, Yazid Essa, guilty. Rosemarie's family embraced each other as the verdict was read, many of them wearing blue ribbons, Rosemarie's favorite color, in her memory. 2 weeks after the verdict, Judge Dina Calabrese sentenced Yazid Essa to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years, the maximum sentence allowed under Ohio law at the time. In delivering her sentence, Judge Calabrese addressed Yazid directly. "You took a sacred oath as a doctor to care for others, and you used that knowledge instead to commit murder. You violated not just the law, but the fundamental trust between husband and wife, doctor and patient, father and children." For Rosemarie's family, the conviction brought a measure of closure, though the pain of her absence remained constant. The case profoundly impacted the Cleveland medical community, prompting hospitals to review their security protocols for controlled substances. Several healthcare facilities implemented new tracking systems for potentially dangerous compounds, with Rosemarie's case cited specifically in their policy documents. In 2012, the DiPuccio family established the Rosemarie Essa Foundation, which provides support for children who have lost parents to domestic violence. The foundation also funds nursing scholarships at Cleveland area colleges, continuing Rosemarie's legacy of caring for others. The murder of Rosemarie Essa serves as a chilling reminder that danger can exist where we least expect it, even in a relationship that appears perfect from the outside. Her story contains valuable lessons about recognizing warning signs in relationships and the importance of trusting our instincts when something feels wrong. If you found value in this examination of Rosemarie's case, please support True Crime Vault by hitting the subscribe button, giving this video a thumbs up, and sharing it with others who appreciate thoughtful analysis of true crime cases.